everybody. Happy Saturday to you. I hope you are having a great Saturday and an amazing weekend. It's holiday weekend, Labor Day weekend. I hope you're having a great holiday start to your great holiday weekend so far. No, I'm surprised I did this because normally I tend to like to not schedule over the holiday weekend because I know people are going to be celebrating, the holiday. So, but hopefully we'll have a great turnout. My name is Don Terrell and want to welcome you to another amazing episode of The Color of Motion. I like to say, hey, stories come in all shades, and I highlight people of color and diverse backgrounds in the industry of motion graphics, animation, visual effects, cartoons, and comics. That man, if you don't know by now, you better join us on final quarter of this month because we celebrate 200 episodes. So I'm super excited. Like I said, I always thank you for giving me a little bit of your time on a Saturday afternoon. And I just thought that we'd close out this last episode before we take our highest break with just a little fun fireside chat talking film and creative talk. I know I'm a little late, but I did finally see Superman and, thought it'd be great to talk about it. I've heard, different things both ways. So we're going to have a fun conversation about that. Some other films that come across my radar and other things come across the radar and just have a great, great conversation. Like I said, we are here each and every Saturday, 3 p.m. Central Standard Time, live on the YouTube channel, LinkedIn, and the website and the Facebook group for the show. But I always encourage everybody to hop on over to the YouTube channel, subscribe, hit the bell notification, and so you get notified of when new content goes up on the channel and the show goes live. I'm trying to make a push by the end of this year, season 5, to really hit 1,000 subscribers. We're almost there, but I definitely cannot do it without your help. I want you to share this with other, creatives that would benefit from, this show. That's the whole kind of purpose of the show, is to really reach and inspire other creatives of color, and not just of color, but just other creatives, to inspire the younger generation. I'm dating myself, but to inspire the younger generation and kind of share the wisdom that's out there from a lot of these great creatives that I'm bringing on. So I want you to, like I said, to share the channel and get people to, come check it out. Also, big shout out, as always, to the sponsor for today's show, DG Graphics. They do all the graphics, overlays, animations. And if you're a business brand that's really looking to create great content, engaging content, and content on a consistent basis, then you definitely should reach out to them and check them out for sure. They can help you. And DG Graphics has always been a great sponsor and a loyal sponsor since day one. All right. You know the drill. Hop into the comments because this is our Gene Sisco and Roger Ebert in the balcony episode. This is an interactive episode where we're talking. It's always interactive, but especially this one because we're talking reviews. What you liked about the movie, what you didn't like. Definitely a lot of things different. And so I'm looking forward to kind of hearing everybody's kind of take on it. What they kind of thought about James Gunn's take, and just have a fun conversation, like I said, to end this quarter out. Mr. DeMille, happy Saturday to you there, brother. Good to see you here, man. I'm glad you tuned in. Looking forward to, I'm pretty sure you've seen it already. So, I won't assume. But hopefully you've seen it, and looking forward to hearing what your thoughts are. But again, hop into the comments, say, hey, where you tuning in from. I think we are about ready to kind of get this, show on the road. And while I'm checking to make sure we are, streaming on all the right channels. What do you say we get this started, eh?
Are you being serious right now?
Yeah.
You'd let me interview you as Superman.
Sure.
Ready?
Let's do it, Cronkite.
Superman.
Miss Lane.
Recently, you've come under a lot of fire for what some might.
A lot of fire.
It's a lot. Today, the Secretary of Defense said he was going to look into your actions. That's funny?
My actions? I stopped a war.
Maybe.
Not maybe. I did.
In effect, you illegally entered a country.
This is how you're gonna be?
I'm not the one being interviewed, Superman. Did you consult with the president?
No.
You seemingly acting as a representative of the United States.
I wasn't representing anybody except for me.
Around the world.
And doing good.
I would question myself in the same situation and consider the consequences.
People were going to die. Hey, buddy. Eyes up here.
Your choices. Your actions. That's what makes you who you are.
Superman is not a man. He's an it. He's somehow become the focal point of the entire world's conversation. I will not accept that.
I cleaned your boots. I'll go get them for you.
You have a dog?
Wow. Yeah. Like I said, I'm super excited to kind of dive into it. You know, I kind of knew when I saw, like most people, when I saw the trailer, knew it was going to be a different kind of Superman than, you know, what Zack Snyder did. And I think that's kind of a freeing thing because you can't really compare the two because they both had different takes and kind of on Superman and came from it from a different perspective. So when I saw the clip, you know, I knew it was going to be a different take, but I think like most people, when I saw the first clip that they released, which was, you know, him crashing into the you know, snow and them introducing, well, before I get started, there are going to be some spoilers for anybody that hasn't watched it yet. So, but they introduced Crypto in the kind of first trailer that I saw, at least. And so my first thought was, man, this could be really campy, you know. And I wasn't, yeah, that was my first thought when I saw like Crypto in the trailer. Not so much Superman crashing and, you know, you're seeing blood, you know, because I thought that was interesting that, you know, he showed Superman like that. And we'll dive into a little bit of what, you know, I think kind of goes into his take on it. But like I said, when I saw Superman or Crypto, I was like, man, this could be really campy. But I figured if anybody could pull this off, James Gunn could. Because I'm a big fan of his style of directing and his movies. He has a really funny sense of humor, but he has a great way of kind of incorporating that humor into his films. And so I said, well, okay, if anybody's going to be able to pull this thing off, it's going to be James. And I knew he was going to take a kind of completely 360-degree turn from what Zack Snyder did with Superman. I kind of liked it myself. I thought, I wasn't sure about it, but after the movie, I really kind of liked James's take on Superman, and he kind of brought him back. He didn't make him this god type of thing, this all-powerful kind. He made him really fallible and really human. And so I thought that really played out well, the way James, kind of incorporated that. Let me know what, I always want you guys to, let me know what you think. Mr. DeMille, yeah, I have seen it. Looking forward to your thoughts first, and then chime in. I would like to know what your thoughts were when you saw the first trailer, that very first trailer, and what you thought about it. Because again, when I saw Crypto, I was like, boy, this could go the wrong way. But again, and I wasn't really sure, I was, dang, what's the actor that the played Superman for Zack Snyder? I really did like his, he was the typical kind of Superman. And so this new Superman, you have to kind of watch it kind of before you kind of initially, because I think just looks wise, we're so jaded by the previous Superman. And that's how we kind of judge it as far as, does he look like the previous Superman? Does he look like Christopher Reeve? Henry Cavill, does he look like any of those Supermans, or does he fall into that kind of Superman look? And I thought this was a great look for, again, how he was playing Superman, in that, he was just this good all-American, for lack of a better word, just this good all-American, wholesome guy that just wanted to do the right thing. It was trying to do the right thing. And I think what really kind of connected me a little more with this Superman was you could feel it and see it in his face, in his expressions throughout, that he humanly just wanted to help people. And that is what kind of got me. And I felt like, Corin Sweet did a pretty good job. I was a little, you're always a little skeptical of it. When I saw the first trailer, my first thought was, I'm going to give it a chance. Yeah, I knew I was going to give it a chance. And I knew I wanted to see it. And again, I definitely knew that James Gunn was going to just take a different spin on it. So, different than Zack Snyder. I knew he wasn't going to play Superman to be this kind of idolized, all-powerful kind of God figure. In this one, you felt that the humanness and the pain that, he would feel just trying to do the right thing, but get blamed for it. Let me take this down. Again, just timing in, we're having a fun conversation about Superman and what you thought about Superman. If you saw it, after I saw the movie, the biggest problem I had was that the tone was too comedic. I was used to the darker version portrayed by Henry Cavill. And again, I knew, he was going to take a more comedic spin, just because that's kind of James Gunn's, modus operandi, you could say. He's going to take a more lighter spin on it than, the others, which, again, I can't really compare, the kind of Supermans, because he did kind of take, I will say, it did remind me of more the animated series, and just the characters. And I have to talk about this from kind of a fan, movie fan, and what I thought about it as a movie, because I think if you're going to deep dive and do a breakdown analysis, you have to see it a couple of times, and then you really do need to be really deeply entrenched in the characters. And I thought like some of the characters we could talk about, like Mr. Terrific. I'm not deeply familiar outside of say the animated series and him being in the animated series, his back history, or that there was even a Green Lantern, Guy Gardner, outside Earth Green Lantern outside of the other ones. I didn't know Guy Gardner was there was a Guy Gardner Green Lantern. So I did watch a couple of videos that gave kind of the backstory and the comic backstory of those characters, so I can kind of be a little bit familiar with it. I thought Gardner was an interesting character, and Nathan Fillion, I think, did a pretty good job. Although to his benefit or detriment, that's the first time Guy Gardner's been, I think, portrayed in a Marvel movie or a DC movie or any kind of movie. So he doesn't have a formal performance to kind of gauge it by. But I thought you have to let me know for any of you that are really deeply for have read Guy Gardner's series and is deeply familiar with him as a Green Lantern. Again, he's supposed to be a hothead and really supposed to be the most powerful Green Lantern from what the video that I was watching said. Let's see. And that's a good note you made that. The music at times didn't feel like a Superman movie. The scene where Mr. Terrific was defending Lois Lane, the music felt like something right out of Guardians of the Galaxy. Yeah, I think that's another thing that's kind of, James Gunn kind of modus operandi. He's going to incorporate those kind of quirky soundtracks and music takes, in there and songs that you would normally expect. Like I'm again not familiar with Mr. Terrific, although I did like him as a character again on the animated series, but they didn't really have a lot of episodes about him or incorporate him. So I'm excited that I hear they're going to give his character some more movie arcs. We'll see. But there were some things about the performance, Mr. Terrific, the actor that played Mr. Terrific, performance that kind of took me out of it at times watching it. It was really great to see, how his powers and how they manifest and him using his powers. But I think what threw me and kind of occasionally took me out when he was on the screen was his voice. And I remember I got a meme that came across my feed, and it was a picture of him, the character, Mr. Terrific, and side next to him was a picture of Robert Downey Jr. dressed up as, Lincoln Osiris from Tropical Thunder. And the tag was, now that I've heard it, now that I've seen it, I can't unsee it. And I didn't quite get it, until I read kind of the thing. And he was talking about his voice. And there were times where he just had that voice like he was trying to figure out or find out, I guess, what, I don't know, strong black voice sounds like or deep black voice. It just sounded like he was forcing it at times. And maybe you'd have to watch it a couple of times or watch the trailers that he's in it, that he speaks. But it did sound kind of Lincoln Osiris, Tropical Thunder, Lincoln Osiris type. You'd have to let me know. But I thought the actor that played Superman, I thought the actor for Superman was okay, but the way he was written just didn't fit the Superman I was used to. I did like how he was portrayed more human, but the overall tone was just off for me. And I think that's the thing. Everybody's kind of going into it, which has probably been kind of the I guess you would say one downfall side or gripe about the movie is that it's a different, again, a different tone and take on Superman. And, you know, everybody is used to that kind of dynamic, you know, action in your face type of thing. And they were going into it kind of expecting that. I don't know if that's what they were hoping for. I liked, just the human tone. I thought some of the monsters that they were fighting were a bit campy. I did like kind of the little banter between the Justice League, or Justice Gang, as they called themselves then, Justice Gang characters. I felt like they fell short with Hawk Girl, and she was kind of, an add-on. I don't know if that actress maybe fit kind of my imagining of what Hawk Girl would be. I don't know. You got let me know what you think. Whether Hawk Girl did a good job, and that's the downside with having so many different characters in there. You can't do them all justice for sure in the show, because I felt like they kind of did Metamorpho disservice. They introduced him, and that was kind of a strange way, the way he was kind of introduced. I don't know. Like I said, he doesn't really have a backstory. Well, he does have a backstory, but he doesn't have his own kind of series that I know of. He's been in the Justice League, but I felt like it was a little half-baked, but he was kind of James Gunn seemed like he was kind of bordering on that, walking that fine line of kind of campy, but then kind of that line between funny and, semi-serious. Take overall. Again, for those just coming, I will say this though. I felt like Nicholas Hoult did a much better job portraying Lex Luthor than I can't even remember the actor's name. That he's been in a bunch of stuff that played Lex in Zack Snyder's version. I like Nicholas Holt's version because even as maniacal as you saw or know that Lex Luthor is, he still put in this kind of humanness, and towards the end, you almost felt bad for him towards the end. And I think that's just a testament of, a good actor that can, even with just a straight bad character, there's this little seed of humanness that, you see in him. And there was this moment, it seemed like to me, that even Superman saw that there was this little, felt bad for him, and there was this little scene when they had their little dialogue towards the end. And I think even in the animated series, there was this point where it seemed like Lex Luthor was helping, and kind of not cozying up, but kind of started to become a good guy type of thing. I mean, I don't know. You guys let me know what your thoughts were on it. Always. Everybody just jumping in. We are talking film, talking Superman, and kind of breaking down, what you took away from the movie. I do like it seemed like to me also James was kind of giving those little nods to the original Superman, Christopher Reeve, because even the title had that kind of original Superman look. And if I'm not mistaken, there was a scene where there was a news reporter that was Christopher Reeve's actual son, who is a reporter, TV anchor reporter. So that was, I think, and just the dynamic between Lex Luthor and his girlfriend reminded me of Gene Hackman and Miss Tessmacher. She was kind of a more smarter Miss Tessmacher, but it kind of played into that relationship, it seemed to me, of Miss Tessmacher type of thing. The other characters, you have to watch. Obviously, he pulled, I think, I am going to spoil it. The guy that kind of did beat him at the beginning turned out to be his clone. And obviously, in the animated series, Lex does get, Superman's DNA in a timeline there. So I think the villains were good. I thought, and the integration of Kara at the end, I felt was a little, I don't know, disjointed to me. Tell me what you feel. Her coming in at the end, I think it does always give them, obviously, a avenue to do a sequel or a spinoff on their own, which they probably will, or they'll probably, because she does become a part of the Justice League. So, probably in the second one. I think the second one is going to be better, you know. Just, this was good, but the story was a little off. I felt also the Martha character, his mother, was played a little campy, much more campier than what I would be used to, or I guess you're used to. That's the thing. You're always kind of going into it jaded, taking in the last thing. It just isn't like the last one. I thought the actor that played John, his father, did a good job. He's a great character actor. He's been in a bunch of stuff. I thought he did a good job. Again, I thought the Martha character came off a little campy, country campy for me, but maybe that played well. Man, I need my glasses here. I gotta read it from. Let me enlarge this. I'm gonna enlarge this and just put it right here. Those nods to the original Superman were nice. I feel as though the dog didn't have to be in the movie. It would have been nicer if they had more backstory for the Justice League characters. Yeah, that's which again, which I'm sure he's leaving room for that in the second, third, and however many that are going to come after that type of thing. But I did feel like, and again, that's the danger of having so many superheroes in a movie is you can't cover every superhero's backstory in depth. And that's why I felt like Hawk Girl, kind of came up short in the movie, I felt. And I don't feel like that actress really nailed it for me. You let me know, to be honest, if Hawk Girl, the actress that played Hawk Girl, if that character, kind of, landed with you, but she felt a little half baked. I would have loved, which I'm sure he's gonna dive deeper into Guy Gardner's backstory. I'm sure he's gonna keep Guy Gardner through it, as he introduces maybe John Stewart, and some other ones. But super excited to see that again. I'm not deeply familiar with Guy Gardner as a Green Lantern, but from just the backstory that I did pick up, I felt like Nathan Fillion did a pretty decent job. Kind of portraying him with the little irritating, asinine attitude that he had. Which they said he's that way in the comics, so I thought he did a good job. As far as Mr. Terrific, outside of the voice, for me, I thought he, did a good job, and looking forward to seeing how they flesh out him as a character. I don't know how it's going to go. Again, I'm not a reader, or hadn't been a reader of that particular character in the comics. So it'll be interesting. Now, whether I can probably expect, and you can probably expect, that thread of humor all through, all the other sequels to it. Because again, especially if James Gunn directs them and is over them, it's probably going to be that thread, just like Guardians of the Galaxy. So for those that are looking for that, I don't know, that Zack Snyder type of Superman, I don't think they're going to get it from it. But it'll be interesting to see where where James Gunn will take it. The plot twist with Superman's parents from Krypton was interesting. Didn't want to spoil it for those who hadn't seen it. Yeah, yeah, it is. But I think what threw me about that again, and there are those small things, was, and correct me if I'm wrong, but Jarrell looked like what's his name? What's the actor? Oh man, the actor that played Rocket. Geez, help me out, Demio. I can't remember his name. Uh, uh, let's see. I cannot think the name of the actor, but I may be wrong. But he looked like that actor, Jarrell, the actor that played Superman's father. Kind of looked like them, and so that kind of caught me off guard when I'm like, man, is that him or is not? But the plot, like Bradley Cooper, yeah, that was him. Yeah, see, Bradley Cooper, that kind of just instantly threw me like, is that Bradley Cooper? Type of thing. So he pulled some interesting actors to play, the characters, you know. But it kind of, like I said, pulled me out for a moment. I thought he did a good job, and I thought the arc of that is definitely going to obviously play into the next one. And I don't want to, kill it for anybody that hasn't seen the movie either. So I'm not going to talk about, just the arc with them. But looking forward to seeing how he, expands on that even more. Tell me what your thoughts were on just the Lois character. The Lois character and the Jimmy character. They were, I don't know. And I thought the Jimmy character was a little bit more, I don't know, a little more interesting than even the Lois. The Lois character was good, but just seemed a little dry. And the interaction between them, for me, seemed just a little dry. Let me see. And then I think about an upcoming Batman movie by Gunn. Batman can't be comedic. It's always been dark ever since the Keaton movies. Yeah, can't be comedic. Yeah, obviously from the Batman TV series, we see that that's not going to work. But again, I think if anybody, he, I, I think Batman has this dry sense of humor. I like it. He's not like overtly funny, but he does have these kind of dry quips that I kind of like. At least in the animated series, he did, and I kind of liked it because you know Batman is this dark character, but you kind of have to throw some humanness in it. So his little sense of humor to me is that kind of dry, really subtle sense of humor that is hard to pick up, but it's funny when you get it, type of thing. And I think if anybody can do it, James Gunn could probably be the one to pull it off. So if he's doing it, it should be interesting. I'm always, I guess, concerned how they mix and mingle these characters together. And I guess the diehard comic fans, they're always going to be those ones that kind of hold on to this is the way the character is. But even in the comics, every kind of artist, writer kind of had their own subtle take on just the character, because they're gonna keep the core of what the character is, but they're gonna bring their own kind of little subtle spin to the character, whether it be, look or whether it be kind of mannerisms, type of thing. So that's why I knew, going in, like you said, to be, I was going in with an open mind because I definitely knew it wasn't going to be the same type of Superman. And fortunately, I felt like it was a Superman that didn't play down to Superman, but didn't, and kept it, relatively light. And again, because that's James Gunn's kind of style, and I knew he was going that way, I just didn't want it to be kind of campy, 60s Batman type of thing. I figured if he was going to go and infuse some humor into it, I hope he does it in a great way and does it the right way, I guess. Let's get some more in here. Mr. Dewan, happy Saturday. You're currently on break from interviews, right? Yep, this is our last episode before we go on hiatus. Take a short hiatus break. And so I figured, the last episode, let's just have a fun conversation, talking films. Again, I know I'm late, but I just saw Superman last week, so I figured let's have just a fireside or in the balcony. Please, don't sue me. I'm just playing. Gene Sisco, Roger Ebert in the balcony type of episode and talk, film and creative talk type of thing. When we come back from hiatus, obviously we will be in full countdown mode for, episode 200. This is episode 195. So when we come back from hiatus, we will be in countdown mode 5 episodes before we hit 200 episodes. So plan a lot of fun things, giveaways, some prizes, just a fun party time we're going to have. 200 episodes. I don't normally think too much about it, but it is a very, very big milestone. Especially knowing how, the show started and not even knowing how long it was going to go or even if it was going to go at all. So I'm not diminishing, what I've accomplished, what we've accomplished with the show. And definitely want to let you, the viewers, know that I couldn't have done it without you. And I definitely couldn't have done it without the great guests and friends that have, come on the show and grace us with their presence there. Everybody, again, just jump into the conversation. We've been talking Superman. Demille, let me know what you thought about how Nicholas played Lex Luthor, because again, I definitely like this Lex Luthor better than I liked Zack Snyder's Lex Luthor. I felt like that Lex Luthor was just, he had ADHD and he was all over the place, really just all over the place. He was just, too jumpy for me and just too crazy, even for Lex Luthor. So I think the actor, which, forgive me, I cannot remember his name. He's been in a lot of big movies. But I think he just played Lex Luthor wrong. But I liked Nicholas's version of Lex Luthor. And I'm excited to see how he expands on the character because I'm pretty sure they'll bring him back for Lex Luthor. He's not playing Beast anymore from what I've read type of thing. He was Beast in the X-Men movies. Great actor. Like I said, he's a great actor. I like him. He's been in a few things. And I liked his take. I liked his take on Lex Luthor, for sure. Just tuning in. Come on, everybody. Let's make this a great episode here. Let's have an engagement. I also am going to share another movie. You know, it hasn't come out yet. It's coming out in October, but the trailer came across my feed, and I want to talk a little bit about that too, for sure. Lex Luthor was probably the best part of the movie. He was very believable in how he hated Superman, yeah, and was just an evil guy, yeah. But like I said, he played him. He played him really well, and that's kind of how he played him. But he played him just human enough to where, like I said, at the end, you almost felt bad for the guy. He was sitting there crying, and just he saw his world was broken, and it just everything he was trying was just broken, and he was sitting there crying, and you almost felt bad for the guy. So Nicholas brought this little slight human thread to Lex Luthor because again, at least in the animated series, I'm not, the comic books, I don't know, but he does become like a anti-hero, I guess you could say, type of thing. Even um, even at the cost of hating Superman, and like you said, you could see just the raw hate he had for Superman, just raw hate and envy he had for Superman. And he even said it. So Nicholas brought the pain. Now, I don't know if the other uh, villain, or not villain, but the other henchman, the woman that was able to change into different things, is if she's a character or if that's just something they brought in. I'm not sure of her character. Maybe somebody can chime in on that, whether she is an actual. Uh, let me take this off. Dewan, I haven't seen the new Superman, so I can't comment on the movie itself, but I was wondering, what are your thoughts on the classic Superman cartoons from the 1940s? Well, I don't know about the cartoons. I will say I didn't watch a lot of them, and I think by the time they were reruns, like uh, the TV serial, the 50s and 60s TV serial of Superman, George Reeves' version of Superman. I didn't really watch. Obviously, I wasn't born in the 50s, or I was born in the 60s, but they were the few that I did watch, I didn't even watch them regularly, but I did catch a few episodes. And that was it was early TV. So that was even more campier than, the Batman TV series. Probably unintentional, not quite as intentional as the Batman one was, but it was campy, just the effects and everything. Now, the animated cartoons, didn't really watch like Dan. I think I probably started getting into the comics around Super Friends, time at that time when Super Friends was a TV series. So from then on, and again, everybody that touches these characters, they bring their own kind of take to it. I think if you went by, if you went by the Superman's version of Aquaman, the film version isn't nothing like it. So you kind of have to feel your way or decide whether you're going to go the comic book route. And even the comic books, again, different writers have their own kind of spin on the character. So depending on what spin you're going to go behind, whether it's Frank Miller's Batman or whether it's another artist or and writer's Batman, you kind of decide, okay, what spin am I going to take on this character, and still try to keep it true to who the characters were. And I feel, James Gunn did a pretty good job that he stayed pretty true to who Superman was as a character. He was a wholesome character, and you can see the conflict of him just trying to do good not for one side or the other, but just because it's the right thing to do and it's good. That conflict with that and how people, don't really like that, and you have to wonder how would you handle it as a superhero. If you had superhero powers, you know, obviously, I feel like superpowers are kind of like alcohol. It just amplifies who you are as a person. So depending on who you are as a person, your superpowers are gonna, make you even that much more. If you're a mean person, your superpowers are gonna make you a villain, I guess. And if you're a hero, your superpowers are gonna make you a hero. But if you're a hero and just trying to do good, how do you handle those ones that just, you know, no matter what you do, they're not gonna agree with your choice? So do you save people? Do you go against that and still save people and try to be a hero anyway? Or not? Uh Also, I haven't seen I haven't seen the Fantastic Four film yet. I want to go see that, and that's another one. Um, and I'll have to say, as I was sitting there um, watching Superman, you go through all these trailers of upcoming movies. It wasn't one movie in all the trailers and all the films that they were showing before Superman that wasn't a remake or a sequel of some kind. And it was like, man, there is no original kind of content anymore. And I get it. Studios are adverse to taking the risk of something unproven and not known. But this next film that I come across kind of proves the point that there are a lot of original kind of stories out there that are done very well. Um, that just as good, if not better than some of these ones that you're dumping millions and millions and millions of dollars and hoping that they pay off, type of thing. And if any of you have come across any independent films, different films, or films that you like, or even the main ones, um, shout it out. I haven't been to too many, like I said, films in the theater. The last one was Sinners that I saw in the theaters, and there are just some films that you have to see on the big screen, type of thing. But I am looking forward to Fantastic Four. Again, that's another one that, depending on the director and the story, that they have their own take. I'm pretty sure there were a lot of, and Demille, you can chime in on that because you've seen it. I'm assuming you've seen it. And I'm assuming you've seen all the other Fantastic Fours that have come out. What are your thoughts on just that one versus the one? Because I was skeptical about, again, the choice that they made for, Reed Richards. Pascal is the actor's name. Great actor. But I don't know. For me, it probably would have been just as good because I think you have to be really familiar with the backstory to kind of really discern how far off they go from the characters or what you do or don't like about the characters. And I, you know, just familiar with. So, and I'm not that with Fantastic Four. I do like that. I thought was interesting the choice for Silver Surfer. You know, and I think she is a character within the comics, so it wasn't like they just uh, did it for shock value, which it might have. I don't know. But I like the fact that it was a woman, the Silver Surfer, because it was a different kind of spin on it. You know, let me know, if you liked Fantastic Four. I didn't see the version with Michael B. Jordan's version of Fantastic Four, so I can't really speak on that one. But I did see, obviously, uh, the original movie Fantastic Four. Um, can't even think of those actors, but that one with and that actor that played Victor Von Doom just passed away not too long ago. I liked that. Wasn't a box office, a box office smash, but I liked it. And again, I wasn't jaded by any preconceived notion of what I thought it would be because I wasn't really familiar with the characters, but I liked it. Um, and so I'm always, while I'm not a big fan of just these constant remakes and rehashes of things, I do kind of enjoy if it's a good take on it, and how good directors bring their own good take on it, such as while I loved, Tim Burton's Batman take on Batman and that, I definitely loved Christopher Nolan's take on Batman. It's just different. While I loved and enjoyed uh, uh, Sid Caesar's, not Sid Caesar, but Cesar Romero's take on the Joker, and Jack Nicholson's take on the Joker in Batman, in their respective Batmans, you gotta love, oh man, these names are slipping me. Keith Ledger's take on Batman. So that's what I mean. Everybody's going to bring their own spin on the character of the movie. And so you have to kind of look at it from that perspective and kind of enjoy it from that perspective. Now, if James Gunn had taken the spin on Superman that he was just, like I said, the same kind of spin that Zack Snyder was taking, this, fight of godlike being that was just all powerful, then you can kind of say, well, which one is better, or which one do you like better to take, because they're kind of the same, so you can kind of compare apples to apples, but it's a hard thing to compare when this director is taking this kind of humorous, more human take on the characters. That's just not like, that you can't compare Tim Burton's Batman to Christopher Nolan's Batman, because they're two different spins on the character. You can only say whether you like them both or not like them both, and like that Batman as opposed to not liking that Batman. I don't know about, I don't know who directed it, but the new Batman, it's not exactly my all-time favorite, but I get it. When I watched it, I got it. Um, I think Christopher Nolan's Batman is kind of, for me, if so de facto kind of Batman, and Heath Ledger's, uh, Joker is kind of the bar for it, but it was a different take. It was still a dark take, so you can kind of compare the two because there's still dark takes on the character, but obviously that Batman was a completely different Batman, and I liked it, and it was a good one. Took a little getting into it. I didn't really, I didn't see it initially, but after I think it came on TBS or TNT, that's when I watched it. Or what is the movie? Netflix, I think it came on. That's when I watched it. Wasn't one I went to the movies to see. I didn't see the one with Michael B. Jordan, but the originals were decent. Yeah, I don't know. I don't even know if he might claim that one. He's probably not claiming it too highly, but yeah, I don't know too many people that do remember that. Uh, uh, Fantastic Four. So that's where it's you just hope the director and the writers can kind of make a great movie regardless of how regardless of which take they're going to use for the main character, or the characters. I absolutely love Robert Pattinson's Batman. A lot of people did. Like I said, it wasn't really high for me, but a lot of people did like Robert Pattinson's take on Batman. And I think the next one, is it slated for this year or next year? The next one's coming out soon. I would put that one I would put that one in Nolan's as top tier Batman films. Yeah, I definitely would put Nolan's as a top tier Batman film, uh, and it's personal choice, I guess. Like I said, that Robert Pattinson's Batman, and then part of that comes from just again a jaded version going in. I think a lot of people when the second Superman came out, just you immediately compare it to Christopher Reeve's Superman because he did such an amazing job. It was even in the you can watch it today and it still holds up. It's such a great film. It really set the tone, but it's just a natural thing to compare it to the next one. I guess that's the hard thing for an actor, to walk into a role that, especially that's played so well. I don't know who's gonna come in after Joker. Well, I mean, I thought I liked uh man, I am missing these names of these actors. Uh I like the actor that played the Joker. Who was that? Um I cannot from Patterson's Batman. The scene from Patterson's Batman, the score from Patterson's Batman was so fitting. Yeah, it was. It was a great score. It was a great score. Um, Phoenix. Phoenix played Joker the second time around, and I did like his Joker. His Joker was probably not as good as Heath Ledger's Joker, but it was pretty good. At least that was my feeling. Phoenix. Phoenix. I cannot think of his name. I know it's Phoenix. Mr. Winbush. What up? What up? What up? Appreciate you stopping by. We are talking film and Superman and just all things creative. So I appreciate you stopping by and joining us. I was just telling, and my friend said he didn't really particularly care for this Superman, the new Superman. Uh, and I was just been saying and having a conversation with Demille. I enjoyed it. I kind of liked it. I felt like, it kind of took me to the Justice League animated series. I kind of felt like that as I was watching it. And I liked the animated series. Again, there were a lot of little things that just, either took me out a little of the movie or I just felt like were, I don't know, a little out of place and kind of just rushed. But Joaquin Phoenix, thank you, Demir. Oh, man, I appreciate that, man. Some actors, you just can't remember the name. You remember the face, but you can't remember the name. Joaquin Phoenix. I liked his Joker. And I thought that Joker was a great Joker. It would have been great to see how Heath Ledger played it. Man, it really would have. But I felt like he did a decent enough job. It was, I don't think any actor wanted to touch the Joker after Heath Ledger did it. Very few people, I think, really wanted to touch it because he did such an excellent job with that character. But I felt like Joaquin did a really good job with the Joker, and kind of deep diving into the backstory of the Joker. I thought it was really good. But you kind of have to figure the take on the director, and that's going to directly play from his style. I don't think Tim Burton would have done a Christopher Nolan type of Batman. That's just not his style of filmmaking. So for his style of filmmaking, I thought obviously he did a great job with Batman. Surprisingly, kind of had that, it was just above for me. It was just above, maybe a couple of steps above. It was just above the campiness of the TV series. But again, it had this kind of weird cat in the hat kind of feel, but that's Tim Burton's kind of style. And for what he directed, I thought he did pretty good. And the fact that Michael Keaton did an amazing job with Batman, playing into how Burton wrote him. So it's a lot of factors involved that really decide whether or not, how one of these movies kind of plays out. And so you kind of take that into consideration. Would love to see William Dafoe as Joker one day. Yeah, he has that Joker face. He did. Obviously, he played in Spider-Man and played Osborn, to a T. I thought so. He would be a good Joker. Like I said, he's done those Joker kind of faces I've seen in some roles. So he'd have another good spin at it. I think he'd be another one of those good actors that could bring a lot to Joker's character. So interesting. He has that look and laugh. Yeah, he has the look and laugh. Everybody just joining in. We've been talking Superman, film, story, and all that good stuff. And what people thought about it. Like I said, I felt like he threw in a lot of great nods to, the original Superman. Some of them were kind of, noticeable. Some of them were really subtle. But I felt like James Gunn, and that's what I like about James Gunn. He's a lover of the medium. So that's why when I saw the trailer, the first initial trailer that I saw, like I said, with Crypto, I felt like if anybody was going to be that one to pull it off, it could be James Gunn. And I felt like after watching this, I felt like he did a pretty good job of pulling it off. I'm pretty sure, as most sequels go, it'll probably be a better story and a little more exciting. They'll be able to kind of dive a little deeper into some of these backstories. Like I said, I'm excited to see, dive a little deeper into Guy Gardner's backstory. I thought he was hilarious. I felt like Nathan Fillion played him pretty good. The actor that played Mr. Terrific, I think his name is Edwin Mathugi. I think that's his name, Edwin Mathugi. I'm sorry if it's wrong, Edwin. But felt like the actor that played, Mr. Terrific, outside of his voice, I felt like he did a good job. I mean, again, I'm not familiar with Mr. Terrific's backstory, but I do know he's smarter than Batman and just as smart as Batman. So I'm excited about, how they're going to flesh out his story and what kind of, scenarios they're going to put him in. Because I think he did sign for a 3-movie deal, the actor. So you can almost expect them to come out with a Mr. Terrific. Now, I liked the voice. I don't know for the ones that have watched the animated series, the Justice League animated series, the Mr. Terrific voice I like. And that actor, he's a great character actor too. Black character actor. He's been in a lot of movies. You'd recognize his face, but he'd have a hard time remembering his name. He played in Aquaman. He played Black Manta's father in Aquaman. I think he did the voice. He voiced the animated character in Mr. Terrific, if I'm not mistaken, in the Justice League, animations. And I liked his voice. His voice seemed to fit that way more than what I felt like the voice that the actor came up with to be Mr. Terrific. That's just me, but still, and I hope they flesh out, like I said, Hawk Girl. I felt like they did her an injustice, really. And I don't feel like at least me, that actress just, to me, didn't ring Hawk Girl. And maybe it was because they didn't flesh out, just really make her a part of the movie, it seems like, but we'll see, type of thing. For everybody just joining in, I want you to chime in if you've seen Superman, what your thoughts were of it. What were some of the key things that kind of stuck with you? I DeMille kind of said crypto kind of threw him and type of thing. I was definitely curious to see how he was gonna tie crypto in, with Superman, because obviously crypto hasn't been in any of the other Superman. So just by that sheer nature, I feel like James was just trying to do something shocking, just totally different than any of the other Superman. So why not bring in crypto? And it could have played out really bad, but I felt like he did a pretty good job with it. I felt like he did a pretty good job with crypto. Now, Kara, again, that's a different thing. Maybe they'll flesh out her. I think that's an opportunity for them, and like I said, for them to flesh out that character as well. There's a lot of great movies out there, great movies I haven't come to. But again, as I was sitting there through, I was really disheartened as I was sitting there through the trailers before the movie. Not unexpected, but just too many remakes, too many, rehashes, sequels. Let's see some original, different movies. And that's why I am excited about this next one. It came across my feed in LinkedIn, and I was like, man, this is a really cool movie. And from a take that I hadn't seen, it's a horror movie, indie horror movie. I think the director is a first-time director, if I'm not mistaken. He's not a big, you wouldn't know his name, so he's not a big-time director or anything like that. I think he's an indie director, but the trailer came across my feed and just blew up. And so I'm super, excited to talk about this. I think it starts or it opens in October. And there's a few things that kind of crossed my mind as I was watching, this trailer about the whole thing. Let's take a look at the trailer, because like I said, it's a horror movie, which I love, but it's told from such a unique perspective that I thought it would be pretty good to talk a little bit about. So let's take a quick look at that, and then we'll talk a little bit about this as we move on through this episode here.
Look who's here.
Am I mute? Oh wow, I'm sorry. Thank you for letting me know that. So I guess everything I said, just let me repeat. I said this came across my feed, and I felt like it was such an man. It was just a unique way. I had never seen a story, a horror story, or any film kind of told from that. Well, I won't say any film. There have been some pet animal films, but horror films. I've never seen a horror film kind of told from that perspective, and so it instantly caught my attention when it came across my feed. And as I was reading this, yeah, I appreciate you letting me know that, Dewan. I didn't see. I tried to mute myself for the video and forgot to unmute. But it was such a and let me know if you were able to hear the video, the trailer. If you weren't able to hear the trailer, I'll play it again. Um, so let me know, Dewan, Demille, if the audio for the trailer you were able to hear. Because like I said, I was trying to mute my mic so that I wouldn't be talking over the video. But it was such a like I said, just unique perspective on a horror story that I had never seen before. And going through the comments, everybody was just saying, if the dog dies, I don't want to see it. If the dog dies, I don't want to see it. And like I was saying, the hashtag does the dog die was just trending. It was just trending online. And initially, again, it's an indie film, so it was really a limited release they were going to do. But once the trailer hit social media and it just blew up and started going viral, they expanded the run, or they expanded the presentations and how many theaters it's going out to. So, like I said, for me, it goes to the point of this guerrilla marketing on it's not a sequel. It's not a rehash of a movie or anything like that. It's a independent, small time director that made a looked like a great movie. And now I've heard the story. Like I said, the story I've heard is not the greatest. Could be better, and maybe the sequel, if he does one, will be better. But it's a good movie that, from what I've heard. Does the doggy die? What a hashtag! And that like I said, it goes into the power of one, social media, and how you can use social media to really explode what you're doing and get out there what you're doing, and even kind of bypass the system a little. As I said initially, the film was only going to come out on a small run of theaters, but once they saw people were into it, it forced them to have to make a change, and think differently about, well, people seem to want to see this. Maybe we should expand the run on this. I felt like a lot of people obviously love their pets. They picked a great breed. Um, Again, his dog. He was saying that from the articles that I read that it was a lot of work getting a dog to do and act how he wanted it to act. Couldn't really use a lot of treats because he said his dog kind of looks at treats as play. And there were just some scenes, obviously, he didn't want them to be playful type of thing. Uh, but there are those diehard pet lovers that's the first thing, does this dog come into any harm? We want to know that. And from what I read, he immediately came out and said the dog doesn't die or the dog's okay and everything like that. And there was no abuse. So I felt like it's going to be an interesting movie. And I like it because, one, it's an indie movie. It's from a small director. It's definitely not like a remake. It's definitely not a rehash. It's a kind of an original story. I'll go as far as saying original story. It's different than all the other stuff that's been coming out. It looks like it's going to do really well, and I feel like getting behind these independent creators and independent filmmakers that are putting out this stuff is kind of that way that's going to keep it out there, that's going to grow it, that's even going to push it to the point where a lot of studios are going to have to stand up and take notice that, okay, well, maybe we are going to have to put some more money behind this, or just help it, because we see that there's a lot of people behind it. So social media, if you use it right, can be a great thing. Oh, I appreciate that. I am not. Let me look at my LinkedIn. Appreciate you sticking by. It's always up for the replay. You can always check the replay there. But as I always like to say, I always appreciate everybody stopping by, giving me a little bit of their time. Pop it in, pop it out. I know how it goes. That's how I watch some TV shows. You're busy doing things. You pop in and look at it, and you pop out. But I know that you're a diehard supporter of the show, and I thank you for that. Have a great weekend. Have a safe, great holiday as well. It is the holiday weekend. Point that is not lost upon me. I always know, and I know most people are probably out on their holiday, so wasn't expecting a huge turnout because people are celebrating the holiday weekend. But hey, this was our last episode. Like I said, before we take the hiatus and before we come down that home stretch of 200 episodes, we got a lot of great things planned the last quarter of season 5. Again, November, we hit 200 episodes. So planning a big shindig for that. Coming up in December, we're back again doing a special 2-day live stream of the show. Back out at Gamescom Film Festival, which ties into this, what we were just talking about, independent filmmakers, sci-fi, horror, and fantasy. We'll be back out there in December for Gamescom. So looking forward to that 2-day special event. So a lot of great things planned to close out the season 5. It's been a blast. It has been a blast doing this, and a lot of big milestones, making a push for the end of the year to hit 1,000 subscribers on our channel. So with your help, that can be accomplished, because we are so close to hitting 1,000. But I want you to share the channel out with other creators that you feel would benefit from this content and all the other great content that I put up on my channel as well. Again, we've been talking about Good Boy. It comes out October, around Halloween, October 3rd, I think it said it comes out. Keep an eye out on it. It's been coming across, and look it up. Good Boy. The actor looks like he's on point, and it's a dog. Like one of the reviews said, one of the best emotional actors out there, even if it is a different species, which I know is hard to do. It's got to be hard and time consuming trying to get the right shot from a dog. Even a trained dog or even a trained animal. I'm sure it's hard to get that right shot. But then something as emotive as the dog looks like he's basically the lead of the movie, to give you those emotive expressions, I'm sure it's not an easy thing to pull from an animal that may want to play all the time or may see this as just a game or fun. So, which I guess you got to get them to see that to do it. But getting those performances, and it looks like he got a great performance. I think is going to be a good one. And keep an eye out for it. Definitely, I'll put a link in the show notes. You can take a look at the trailer in depth, kind of dive a little deeper into it. This was just something that I try to find those. I like those films that are, you can almost say they're B rated. Again, not the mainstream. I love mainstream movies, but those kind of off the beaten path type of movies that are just different. I really like. In this one, the premise is, spot on. I thought he did an interesting take on it, or I thought he chose an interesting take perspective to do this horror film. So I'm eager to see how it comes out um, in October. And how many theaters that it comes, how many theaters they really put it on, you know, and just you're always curious of the impact of what it does for the director and the people involved after the fact, whether it's a success or a flop. How how they are after and what they work on after. Like I said, his name is Leon Ben Ben Leonberg. You know, Ben Leonberg, and I think it's looks like a golden terrier, might be. Yeah, I'm not sure. The breed looks like a golden terrier of some sort, but definitely a dog that gives you those uh, good expressions. And from some of the scenes, it looks like he was really dialed into the fear. But it's funny. I'm pretty sure filming it, you don't get the full impact of it until you put the music and the sound effects, and it all comes together. And that's where your brain kind of shifts and makes it something of fear, and something scary for you. I don't think you know Jaws was maybe as scary as it is if you don't hear John Williams' score under it. So all I say all of that to say all these little things, and I did a video about this. It's the little things that you don't think people will notice or even care about that make something really good, and paying attention to the little details. But all those little details, I feel, make a movie or anything really good. And it's those sound effects, those little creaks, uh, even the silence, those little moments of silence, all help to stir that narrative in your brain, and get you to feeling something. So that's what great movies are. That's why I love movies. That's why I love art. That's why I love creation, being creative, because it gets you to feel something. Whether it's fear, joy, pain, sorrow, whatever it is, it's to get you to feel something. So definitely, I will be putting all of this stuff in the show notes, so you might want to check it out, and keep an eye out for it. Like, we got 2 more months before it's released, and I think to support an independent, especially an independent filmmaker creator, I feel is always a good thing to do. For everybody just joining in, we've been talking film, specifically Superman, because I saw Superman. And this kind of, it hasn't been released yet. It hasn't come out yet, but we've been talking film, and this is a cool horror film that popped up on my feed, told from the perspective of a dog, a guy's pet dog whose owner has gotten possessed, and he's got to help his owner. So it's this dog that's fighting these demons that's possessed his owner. It's like I said, it's such a interesting perspective. You almost gotta wonder how and hope that it pulls it off, and root for the underdog. You gotta root for the underdog, type of thing. Oh man, like I said, as we close out this last quarter, I also kind of wanted to touch base. I think I'm going to do a deeper just solo video on this, but I did want to talk about kind of uh, this little thing that's come up the last few days, and talk about the little Cracker Barrel disaster. As most people know, I do graphics and branding, so I'm always following branding and design and that type of thing. And if for all of you that didn't realize it or didn't know, Cracker Barrel tried to rebrand, and it just was a colossal failure on so many levels. I think my feelings on so many levels. But this was their new logo that they decided to come up with, and it was so bad, and that shows you the power again of being mindful of your audience and being really tuned in to what your audience wants and realizing that um, this, especially a brand that's well known and is just so entrenched like this, you got to be really careful. I'm not sure. First off, I'm not sure why they changed the color. It looks like it's. They said it's still brown, but it looks obviously like a darker brown. They should have stuck with the original brown and gold that they have on the original logo, because the colors are familiar colors. They're colors that are familiar to the brand. So they should have stuck with the first colors. Um, I like icons. Maybe get rid of the old guy. Obviously, Cracker Barrel really does need a brand refresh. It's a brand that does need to be brought up to date. But when you're dealing with kind of that kind of brand, a brand that's been around a while and is well known, you really have to, you don't want to alienate, your initial base, but you want to bring in new, people into your fold. You have to be really careful, and it's something that needs to be rolled out very slowly. I like a great case study in rebranding. Walmart done a great job in rebranding, and that's a business that's been around even longer probably than Cracker Barrel. So when your brand is that iconic and that big and that well known, when you rebrand or look to make a change, you have to be really careful about how you roll that change out. And with Cracker Barrel, it looked like this was just a rush thing that they put out, and that they really didn't think through kind of the branding of it. Just it's Cracker Barrel in and of itself would be a tough thing to rebrand, just based on the nature of the name and the Cracker Barrel. Even though Cracker Barrel comes from those old country stores that had cracker barrels of crackers. They kept the crackers in a barrel, and it's Cracker Barrel. But obviously, when you say Cracker Barrel and you think Cracker Barrel, you're thinking a certain demographic. And so, wanting to expand on that, you got to be really careful about it. Again, just by the nature of the name of the business and kind of the back history of the business, even though it's not that you think old white, country style people come into that. And Cracker Barrel has had incidents where, people of color and different people have been, not treated well at Cracker Barrel. I like Cracker Barrel's food. They have some great food. And they're really more a Southern, chain than they are a Northern chain. Well, they do have some up north as well. But, they're north, 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 Midwest chain. Um, I like their food. I can honestly say that the Cracker Barrels that I've been to, I never had an issue, but I do know and have seen where certain patrons have been treated different. So I say all of that to say, rebrand wise, they should have started there. Company culture. They should have went into the company and went around and really worked on company culture and built out from that. And any graphical changes should have been like slowly dripped out at the locations. Like I said, Walmart did a great job with their rebrand, going from that Walmart to taking out the hash and changing even kind of the tagline a little. It has to be done very carefully, and thought out very carefully. The logo, they tried to keep the barrel logo, as you can see, the kind of the barrel icon, which really didn't work for me. I think they still could have kept that barrel icon from the original, because they're going to have different versions of the logo, whether it's an iconic version, or just the text version of the logo. They're going to have different versions of it. So I felt like they could have still had and should have probably still kept the barrel and incorporated with it. Maybe taking out the old man sitting in the rocking chair. And they should have kept the tag, Old Country Store. I think it helps keep the tagline, Old Country Store. Yeah, there's a lot of things, and obviously there's a lot of other things to do, but I wanted to kind of touch a base a little on it because it has been a big thing, and it's amazing how much that impacts. Because when that came out, they said they lost upwards of $10 million just on that kind of launch, and it took them maybe a couple of days to kind of backtrack and go back to the original logo. Again, I feel like they do need to rebrand. They just need to really be thoughtful about the rebrand, because they do need to change. And it is a good chain. It's a great chain. Like, they have great food. Can't deny it. But just culturally wise and demographic wise, there's a thing within that should be started upon. Company culture should be kind of the thing to start from, and then go out from there, and integrate it. But design wise, yeah, it looks like it was a quick thing they did and kind of threw together. So I guess better to go back, take a minute, and then kind of rethink coming back out with it. A better rollout, I think, would be the best thing to do. Let me take this off here. When I hear the name Cracker Barrel, I think I think of the cheese brand of the same name. As for the restaurant, I don't think I've ever seen one in Canada. I don't think they're in Canada. Again, it's definitely mostly Southern, but they do have some chains and locations up north, because I'm from up north and I've been to a few in Ohio area. So, but I don't think they're in Canada. But and definitely, we obviously don't have that cheese brand either, because I don't think of I can't recall a cheese brand named Cracker Barrel down here. So I don't know. That might be a Canada thing, the cheese. But what else? Someone created There's been a lot of funny memes after that. Man, I feel bad. Maybe. But you got to think, man, who was the agency that did this? And really was behind this. They've got to be catching some stuff from this. I don't know. You definitely know the person that's over marketing or in charge of this is catching it from Cracker Barrel if they haven't been let go already. But again, I've seen a lot of brand, rollouts. Some are done well, some are done not so well. And like the video I did, it really comes to paying attention to those little small details, those little small things that really do add up to mean a lot. when you think about it, when it comes to your brand, even something as small and kind of, it's not insignificant, but your logo really is a small part of your brand, but can make a big impact, as you can see, when people don't like, the change that you made, because you weren't thoughtful about the change, people don't like it, and they react to even something. Again, a logo is not an insignificant thing, but it is a small part of your whole brand. And when you're a small part can throw you off that much, then that lets you know you really do need to be thoughtful when it comes to branding and marketing. Someone created a funny graphic online using the old Cracker Barrel logo that said "Release the fire." There's been a lot of them. That's the thing. And I guess that's, compliment, imitation, or satire is the best for flattery, as they say. So you're seeing a lot of memes come out after that. I feel again bad for a little bad for the designer or the agency that did it, but then again, who knows the story behind it? But you got to think, man, this was a big, big, big blunder, on so many levels. And again, rebrands are hard enough as it is, you know, especially like I said, the bigger you are as a brand and a company, it's hard. It's hard. But when you have kind of that context behind your brand of being just a brand for old time white folks and that type of thing, I mean, people of all races eat at Cracker Barrel, but when you say Cracker Barrel, what do you think? You think old time, you know, uh, old time store, like the tag says, old time store with old white folks sitting in a rocking chair type of thing. They serve old time home style food. So that in and of itself just, paints a narrative about your brand anyway. And then it's even complicated even more when you already had kind of racial issues at some locations, not all, but some, and people, those type of incidents that you have to address when it comes to rebranding. So it's a big process, rebranding, even bigger for those worldwide. Well, not saying Cracker Barrel's worldwide, but it is a big, national brand. They've got a number of locations, so they are a big brand, and are recognizable here in the States type of thing. But it's even, you think when you think of companies like Walmart or Apple or those type of companies that they are worldwide, to make a change costs them millions and millions and millions of dollars. So they have to be thoughtful about the changes that they do make to their brand and when they make those changes to their brand, and the good changes are easy transitions to make. I don't even think people think so much about, the change that Apple made from their colored logo to the logo as it is now type of thing. So when it's done in a thoughtful way, the change is less impactful in the sense that it disrupts people's opinion about the brand. So that's why when you take the time, and I feel like Cracker Barrel probably at least should have took a year to roll out, that rebrand. And I don't know how long they did, but it seemed like it came out pretty quick. And I'm pretty sure they probably didn't drip those changes throughout the chains before they nationally announced it. Walmart did that. They made changes in some of the graphics, and they placed them in the stores before they even, made the announcement that, made it known that the logo and stuff was changed. So doing it in a palatable way, making it rebrand in a palatable way is what's going to help you kind of keep your base, but still open yourself up to bring in, new people. And like I said, I think I'm going to talk about that a little more in a solo video talking about branding and rebranding and design type of thing. But I thought it would be a interesting thing to touch on because it has been, at least on my feed, again, since I follow branding news and things like that. I thought it would be a fun thing to kind of touch on and just talk about. With that, I think we can kind of close this out. I always like doing, solo episodes, mixing in solo episodes, because I don't feel quite as rushed to kind of get through or, kind of talk as I would through if I had a guest. Maybe because I'm doing so many other things as far as like monitoring the guests and things like that. I feel like I have to get through really quick when I have, my guests and friends come on. But when I do these solo episodes, it's just really a lot more relaxed. Still more stressful, but a lot more relaxed in getting through because it's less structured type of thing. But I always enjoy it. I always enjoy having this solo direct talk with my viewers and audience members. So again, thank you so much for giving me a little bit of your time on Saturday, especially holiday Saturday or holiday weekend. As we close this episode out, man, it's been a fun one and one I always appreciate. Like I said, when we come back from hiatus, we'll be in full countdown mode and get ready for a great 200 episode. And even before that, these episodes coming up, even before our 200th episode, is going to be a great one for sure. Mr. DeMille, man, brother, I always appreciate you stopping by. And I definitely wanted to reach out to you and Dewan to touch base about the 200th episode, because I do want to have, past guests stop by and it's a party. You can stop by, chit chat, have fun. Like I said, we're going to do some fun giveaways and prizes, some games, and all that kind of good stuff. And I plan this out. 200. Wow, 200 episodes. Man, oh man. Yes, congrats to me. Plus, it's my birthday weekend. I celebrate my birthday Tuesday and looking to have a great time. I couldn't have had a better birthday weekend, spending it with you. So thank you for that as well. As I close this out, I have such gratitude. Before I go on hiatus, I have to say that thank you for being there with me on this ride as I go. It's been a fun one. Have a safe and happy holiday weekend, Mr. DeMille. Happy birthday. Appreciate it there, brother. Yep, I hit the big 6-0. I'm proud of that. 6-0. Well, you can kind of guess with the hairs. 6-0. And it's been a fun year so far. It's been a fun trip around the sun so far this year. And I'm excited. You always feel a certain way as my birthday kind of encroaches and starts to approach. But I am always still thankful, obviously, that you make it through another year. And through all the ups and downs, the ins and outs, you got to be thankful. And I am. So with that, I want all of you to have a great holiday weekend. Safe holiday weekend if you're on the road, please. And I will see you in a few weeks. Same bat time, same bat channel. Cheers, everybody.